let's take a deeper look at modifying how objects work by using arguments. In the first MaxPatch video, creating and connecting objects, we changed the function of a metro by adding an integer. So here I'm adding 1,000 milliseconds now is the interval, and I will get a bang now every second. I don't have to have my arguments be values or integers. They can be many different things. So for example, in the print object, which is sending anything that it receives into the Max console, I can give a name to my print object. So I could call it this first print, or number 1, or anything I want. Anything I want. And then when I send values to it, in the console, I see here, anything I want, or whatever more functional name you've chosen to give your print object. Another thing to note about arguments is that sometimes you don't need any arguments, and the object functions just with its default state without any issues. So for example, here, counter has no arguments. It starts at 0 and counts upward or forward indefinitely. When I add one argument, this first and only argument is the maximum count. So if I turn this on, the maximum count I will get to is 9. What's interesting about these multiple arguments is that when I start to add multiple arguments into the objects, they take on different meanings. So now where my first argument was the maximum, once I've added 2 arguments, my first argument now is the minimum or the starting position, and my second argument becomes the maximum. When I add 3 arguments, now my first argument is for the mode, the counting mode, which I'll show you in 1 second. The second one is the minimum, and the third one is the maximum. Now, how did I know all of this? I found it in the help file. So if you right-click and you choose Open Counter Help, you will see this help file, which I've pasted here because my screen sharing won't show you the help file. And you can see down at the bottom that it's showing you that when you have no argument, only 2 arguments here, it's going to loop in its default mode, which is forward. When you have 3 arguments, this one right here that this little comment box is pointing to shows that it's going to count in mode number 1, which means you start at the top and count backwards rather than forward. And then over here, counter mode 2 is a palindrome, which means that you're going to start counting up, get to the top, and then start counting back down. When you get back to the bottom, it will count back up.